John.
Oh, I was going to say hi, Alan.
Hi there.
And I was going to say we have a guest, which I don't recognize, which I haven't seen, I think, ever since COVID, Monsieur Goulard.
He's still trying to connect, I think.
And I see that we have a Monsieur Raymond Truax. Councillor Chris. Conseiller Rowley. Conseiller Dan. Conseiller Ali is on. She's just. Okay. Conseiller Denis.
Okay.
Conseiller Léo tout à l'heure.
Leo, Roly, Denis. Oh, what happened? Everybody's off again. There's Chris.
Who's missing? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Donc, ça fonctionne, Monsieur Goulard?
Doesn't look like he's got the audio there. Hello, Paul.
Hi, I'm sorry. I can check my birth certificate and I can explain why.
Bienvenue.
Bonjour, Madame la maire, mairesse.
Bonjour. Bonjour, Madame O'Connor, Marcia O'Connor.
Oui, bonjour.
And I see that you also have another member of Monsieur Raymond Truax that's also joining you. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to verify with our clerk. I think we are slightly ahead of 6:30, if I'm correct.
It's 6:32 by my watch.
Okay, thank you. So we're all here, so we're ready to start. Donc, bienvenue à notre réunion de conseil. Welcome to our council meeting this evening. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest, aucune déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire? None? Is there a mover and a seconder to approve the addendum? Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Yvonne.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Zuhain. Be it resolved that the addendum for the meeting of council held on September the 7th, 2021 be approved as presented.
Those in favor? Carried. Mover and a seconder to approve the agenda. Conseiller Léo, Conseiller Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Mallette and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that the agenda for the meeting of council held on September the 7th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried. Adopté. On procède avec délégation et pétition, delegation and petition. This evening, we have the pleasure to receive a delegation from the West Nipissing West Pickleball Club. And amongst us, we do have the president, Miss Marcia O'Connor, vice president, Monsieur Paul Goulard, and the secretary, Monsieur Raymond Truax. Donc, bienvenue. And we'll provide you the opportunity to proceed with the delegation afterwards. I'll do a roundtable with members of council to see if they have any comments or if they have any questions. So the floor is yours. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors. On behalf of the West Nipissing Pickleball Club, I'm here this evening with my fellow executive members to speak to you about a sport that is thriving right here in Sturgeon Falls. I'm here with Vice President Paul Goulard, you would have seen on camera. Our Treasurer, Renamé La Jeunesse, is also with us, Secretary Raymond Truax, and our Director at Large, Larry Jackson. I am the president of the club, and my name is Marcia O'Connor. Thank you for having us this evening. Now, I believe I have possession of the screens and that I should be able to change to the next screen.
Actually, I have it, but I.
Okay, next screen. Okay, thank you. So pickleball is the fastest growing sport in North America, in case you didn't know. The West Nipissing Pickleball Club was established in 2018. So we are just 3 years young and growing. Prior to COVID, we played at our local high schools and the health center during the school year, and at the arena and the tennis courts during the summer. Since COVID, we've only been playing outdoors at the tennis courts. The West Nipissing Pickleball Club is an organized club that is governed by our bylaws, our constitution, and our policies. Our mission statement includes promoting pickleball as a sport for adults and all skill levels in the West Nipissing area, providing opportunities for club members to interact socially, and work with the Parks and Recreation Department to improve and expand playing facilities in West Nipissing, and finally, wherever applicable, to assist and advise the Parks and Recreation Department with a municipality organized pickleball program. Our club is a member of the Pickleball Ontario, which in turn is affiliated with Pickleball Canada. Pickleball Ontario and Canada are recognized provincially and nationally as the governing bodies of pickleball in Ontario and Canada, respectively. Pickleball Ontario is a nonprofit association of volunteers.
Interesting.
It's not just me that's. So I'm on.
We lost almost everybody.
Okay, that's strange.
How do we have one in Living and one in Field and lost everybody else? When
I don't know. It's weird, eh?
It is weird.
I guess we just wait. They're gonna have to reconnect.
Yeah.
I'm told the power went out. I'm cutting in and out here with my, but I understand from the text that the power went out in Sturgeon, and that's probably why you're probably on standby power
Yeah.
at the building.
The generator's running at the back.
All right.
Did everybody else lose hydro like me?
Yes.
Or was it just me?
Just a few of you, half
Oh.
of you.
I'm
You
so
lost
sorry. Shall we wait a few more minutes then?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay, sorry about that, Marcia. We're
Oh,
just going
no. Yeah,
for
no problem.
to join back because there's quite a few missing right now and also quite a few guests that are missing.
No problem. Just let me know when you want me to continue or to resume.
Okay.
Marcia, may I ask you, did your power go off as well?
It did.
Yeah, okay.
What about the outlying area, Conseil Denis and Conseil Chris? Did your power,
No, we were fine.
We have
You
a
were-
sound system out here.
okay. So it's possible that it was only in Sturgeon.
Yes.
Okay. So we're missing Conseil Leo and we're missing Conseil Alice.
Rolly, did you lose your power?
Conseil Alice is on.
Yeah, Rolly
I
too.
don't know where I am right now.
There's Liz, she's back.
And then I think Conseil Leo is joining us, or maybe
Hey.
not. No.
Sorry, okay, got it.
Leo was on with us for a minute.
Yeah, but we're missing him right now.
Where is he? I don't see him.
No, that's what I said. We are missing Conseil Leo and his power would have probably went out as well.
Rolly, conseiller Rolly. There he is, Rolly and Leo. We need Leo.
Mélanie, is it possible that we call Conseiller Leo Mallet to find out if he's experiencing technical problems?
I'll just check with them.
Thank you.
I guess we all lost power, eh?
Yeah,
And conseiller Denis didn't, Rolly.
Oh,
we're all moving to living.
no. Chris Fisher, we didn't hear, so I'm wondering why.
Chris was okay.
Lost the
Yes, Paul.
other one.
Taking a while.
Hello.
Hello, Paul.
Anyone know what happened?
We all lost power.
Yeah, I know.
We're doing the courtesy for Conseil Leo to make sure that he doesn't have any technical problem because he was on at the beginning of the meeting. So he's just being called right now. So that's why we're waiting.
Hello.
Councillor Leo is just having some technical difficulties. His computer is spinning. He needs to shut down and reboot and get it to try again.
Okay. Is there any objection to wait a few minutes to make sure that, to see if he can join by with his computer? If not, well then, after, let's say, 4 minutes, then he can join by phone so we can proceed. We're all in agreement, no objection? Aucune objection? Parfait.
Oh, there's Leo. There's Leo. Hello, Leo.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
Okay,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
yes, we can.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll pass it back to Mrs. O'Connor to continue with the presentation pertaining to a new sport in West Nipissing, pickleball.
Okay. If I could just get back to slide 3, so the previous slide, that would be great. Thank you. So thank you. That's very unusual. I teach online with Canada College, and we use Zoom all the time. And I can't remember the last time the hydrant went out and I lost everybody. So it's good to see that technology is pretty good, though, at coming back so quickly. So Pickleball Ontario is a non-profit association of volunteer pickleball enthusiasts that are committed really to supporting the growth of the game, along with participation and development of both recreational and tournament players throughout the province of Ontario. And we are affiliated with both Pickleball Ontario and Pickleball Canada. Next slide, please. So what is pickleball? Well, pickleball at its core is a fun and exciting indoor and outdoor sport that combines elements of tennis, badminton, and ping pong. The game is played on a court that's very similar to that of a badminton court, with a lower net and with looks like an oversized ping pong paddle and a wiffle type ball. Why is the sport growing so quickly? Simply put, it's just a lot of fun. It offers a parallel sport for tennis players. It has a shorter learning curve than other racket paddle sports. It has less physical impact on the body. It can be played both recreationally and competitively, and it's attractive to all ages. It's important to note that there's been a dramatic increase in places available to play pickleball across Ontario and Canada, although the supply of facilities is not keeping pace with the demand for play. Next slide, please. Pickleball not only has the fun factor, but it has many health benefits that go along with the sport. Health officials are acclaiming the virtues of the sport as a beneficial means to staying active and fit. Next slide. Pickleball increases your heart rate and it boosts your metabolism. Playing pickleball improves your balance, your coordination, agility, reaction time, flexibility, and strength. In fact, Dr. Elgin, as a psychotherapist, he's been quoted as saying, as important as pickleball's ability to improve one's mental health, I have to share with you the impact on cognitive health. Dementia and Alzheimer's are increasing rapidly, particularly as the percentage of older individuals in society increases. The regular physical and social activity that pickleball provides can very possibly slow down and/or prevent these harmful diseases. Playing pickleball can boost your mood and overall mental health. Pickleball can also lower the risk of depression and reduces loneliness and isolation that can be associated with an entire range of negative health outcomes. Next slide. And of course, an added benefit for so many people has been paddling away the pounds while playing pickleball. The next slide, please. Last year, the weather was nice enough that we played from April until December 11th, and then the snow put a stop to our game. If you look closely in the bottom picture, you'll see that it's snowing during our game. Next slide, please. Pickleball is also very important for its social benefits. People love pickleball because it offers something for everyone. Beginners of all ages are welcome. The beauty of the sport is that you can play to your level of competition. Most of all, pickleball is a social sport where you'll create friendships anywhere you play. Due to its social aspect, it helps deal with loneliness and depression. The socializing of the sport quickly draws people in and gets them hooked. Next slide, please. Our sport is welcoming and inclusive of all people. We have diversity and many skill differences. We can be intergenerational, where seniors can play among younger people, parents and children can play, grandparents and grandchildren can play, disabled and able-bodied can play together. Pickleball is currently the fastest growing sport in North America, estimated at 4 million players. With the numbers continuing to rise rapidly as more and more people of all ages show interest and learn to play the sport. We don't have to look too far from us. In North Bay, kids are being offered lessons, and recently a new racket club was opened in the old North Bay Mall to accommodate pickleball and badminton players. Next slide, please. So what is the purpose of our presentation this evening? We're interested in shining the light on a sport that's here in our municipality that needs help with securing proper facilities so that we can continue to grow our membership. We need your help so that we can keep the sport in our municipality. Next slide, please. We're interested in having the municipality tap into funding. We know that there's funding available to municipalities and cities because retrofitting and infrastructure projects have been taking place across Ontario and Canada, and as recently as close to us as Sudbury. And on August 12th, the City of North Bay announced that it is upgrading its waterfront recreation area by building one full-sized hard-surfaced multi-use court and one half-sized court beside it. City Council in North Bay approved the project, $100,000, with $305,000 coming from the Investing in Canada infrastructure program, and the remaining portion coming from the city. We would like to see the municipality of West Nipissing also get the funding that's available to us. Next slide, please. We could establish a multi-purpose recreation center. Maybe we could consider an addition on the current recreation center. Maybe we could develop a multi-use facility that could be used for pickleball, volleyball, basketball, badminton. The possibilities are really endless. It could expand the opportunities for not only seniors, but everyone in our area. Next slide, please. If an indoor multi-use facility is not in the cards, how about adding a covered building, such as a prefab structure to the existing tennis pickleball courts? We could improve the court surfaces, maybe even add a few more courts. Next slide. To put it into perspective in terms of size, you can get 4 pickleball courts to 1 tennis court. In pickleball, with 4 courts, we could accommodate 16 players at any one time, while additional players wait and rotate in when the game is completed. In tennis, with 1 court, it accommodates 2 to 4 players. Players usually play for an hour and then they give up the court. Next slide. We haven't even discussed the economic benefits of a multi-use facility or dedicated pickleball courts. We could draw in players from other communities to play due to the preference of dedicated facilities, and they would usually be in multiples of 4 people. They will likely socialize before or after at restaurants and bars in the community. We could draw in new residents to the area because of a dedicated pickleball facility. And depending on the number of courts, if we had 12 courts, we could be viable for provincial level tournaments spanning 3 to 4 days with 300 plus players, mostly from out of town. For towns with 24 and 40 courts, they're viable for national and international level tournaments spanning up to 8 days or up to 3,000 players that come from across North America. If we have less than 12 courts, it's an excellent opportunity for regional and local tournaments. Next slide, please. We want to keep growing our membership in the sport of pickleball, but we really need some dedicated space. We need your help. So what are our next steps? How can we move forward? How can we help the municipality get such a project off the ground and started? Next slide, please. So thank you so much for your time this evening and for hearing what I had to say on behalf of our members. Can we answer any questions that you might have?
I really want to say thank you, and I'll do a round table to see if there's any comments or any points of clarification or questions by members of council. Conseiller Yvon.
Merci, Madame Mairesse. Madame O'Connor, I think, and Paul Goulard, I'd like to congratulate you on bringing this forward. I seen the sport start when I was a resident working for the municipality a few years back. And it has increased members throughout these years. And I must say it is a thriving sport. There are possibilities something coming to mind that we can maybe do something with respect to housing a permanent structure for the sport, but it's something we'd have to really look at. I think because of the membership and who you entice to play is like the seniors is a great sport for the seniors as well as anyone else for that matter. But I think it's well worth to look at. And I thank you for bringing it forward. I think it's a good idea. And it's something that even myself I may look at. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Okay, thank you, Conseiller Chris.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I've never actually seen pickleball, so I have a few rudimentary questions. So I see that the ball does that ball bounce? Is my first question, or is that like just interested? And then my second question would be, as for like, I realize you're playing outdoors on tennis courts, but what is the actual surface that pickleball wants or is required? And then how, because I don't understand it, how high would that building have to be? Like, is it like tennis high or hockey high, or is it lower? And yeah, those are my questions.
Paul, did you want to answer those questions?
Yeah, yes, sure. Chris, yes, the ball does bounce. The difference between that and tennis is in tennis, the ball bounces much faster and harder, while in pickleball, the initial shot will give you a very fast ball, but then it slows down because of being a wiffle ball full of holes. It slows down fast. The big thing about pickleball is eye-hand contact. It sharpens your reflexes without having to harm your knees like tennis would. It is, what was the other question? Oh, for the height. The minimum, I would say, is 12 feet. In pickleball, there is such a shot as a lob, which you can send as high as you want to sort of give the opponents a more difficult chance at returning it. But 12 feet would be minimum. But then again, like we are asking or mentioning, we are sort of starting the ball for other clubs such as volleyball and badminton, and the height that would suit pickleball would be the same as it would for volleyball or badminton or tennis. How do you think? Is that okay, Chris?
Yes, thank you very much. Oh, sorry, just one other. So if it was indoor, this, like, you're playing right now on outdoor tennis courts, and I assume that those are all tarmac. So, but an indoor court would be like a basketball court. And then I guess the other thing is, with a ball like that, I'm guessing you can't play on a windy day. Is that true? Outside.
Good night. Okay, yes, can you hear me, Chris?
We can all hear you, Mr.
I can
Goodall.
hear you.
Yes, we can. A good example is we've been playing inside the arena on the ice floor in the summertime. So the height there, at times we have hit the ceiling. And then to answer for the water, you can play in the rain, but the danger is the wet surface. We will not, or we have always, ever since we started, we don't advocate playing in the rain when the ground is wet. Too dangerous.
Okay, thank you. Conseiller
Thank you.
Rowley.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to thank you, Marcia and Paul, for this interesting sport. It's a beautiful presentation. This is all new, but I truly am fascinated by this growing sport where you could bring in competitors at one point. If ever there's enough courts, we are looking at a very beneficial situation for this municipality as far as tourism. And so, another comment also is I'm very interested in the comment that you made to paddle the pounds. That was so. Whenever you're playing, I would like to go and see how it all goes. And you've got my support on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Conseiller Leo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. One question, are you asking council to look for funding? Through your group, through the municipality to apply for grants for funding? Is that what you're asking?
That's definitely one area for sure. We're looking for any help. The sport is growing for us, and we currently have about 60 members, which is pretty large. And it's difficult for us to keep growing it and really advertising it too much because we don't have the place, we don't have the room. We need a more dedicated facility. So whatever that means, whatever it takes, we are looking for help in, how can we partner with that? How can we work with the recreational department? How do we apply for funding? We're not, we're just a bunch of retired people for the most part that play a wonderful game that's keeping us healthy. And throughout COVID, this has meant a lot for many people because we've been playing outdoors and at a time when I think a lot of us might have slipped into a depression, especially for some of our folks that are widowed and playing the sport with us. This has been a real added benefit for them. So we really want to grow this. I am sure that we could probably triple, quadruple, quintuple, I'm sure, our membership if we had a dedicated place to play. So we'll take whatever help we can get.
Okay, maybe through you, Madam Mayor, maybe we can ask Steph to look if there's any buildings or whatever we have in the municipality or through funding through grants. But that's my recommendation. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Conseiller Dan?
Thank you. I can attest to the fact that you people are having a good time on Tuesdays when we clean the bay. You make so much noise that we're going to have a noise bylaw. You guys are having too much fun out there. And I know that you've been playing at 9:30, and if it rains, you play at 3 in the afternoon. And you're pretty religious in your approach because every time 9:30 rolls around, I can hear the noise and tuck tuck and the people laughing. So it's great to see that you've taken upon yourself to get this going, and that it's a growing sport. I know I've been asked to join, but unfortunately, I just can't find the time. So in summary, what you're doing is you're asking us, Marcia, to look for some funding. You're to invest in an infrastructure to basically help the growth of the sport, and the coverage structure would be the best. I totally agree with your request because I think that anything that evolves from a population like this is worthy to look at. However, have you taken any steps towards doing some fundraising on your own?
No, we have not at this point, and it's something that we would need to talk about and consider depending on what funding's out there. Paul, did you have something to say? I could see your fingers waggling.
No, if I may, we did look into provincial and federal funding. Larry approached members of parliament, and he was told that we cannot initiate or ask any. It has to go through the town or the community. But if I may, in 1980-84, I was part of a committee that formed a master plan for recreation for Sturgeon Falls, which should have evolved with West Nipissing. Now, in the plans, like I tell everybody, in the plans that Trevor Bywater put down for us, the doors in the entrance to the pool on the right, there's a set of doors here. That was for future building, like something like what we're looking for, which was going to house racquetball or handball. So it is part of the master plan from 40 years ago. So is there not any attention that had been given it since then, or is it something that's dead now because we're into West Nipissing? So what we are looking at is to sort of go back to that master plan and see if that cannot be implemented, because the washroom facilities and shower are still there, and the monitoring, which would be the office in the front, is already there for the weight room and the pool. So it wouldn't demand any other major expenses.
Okay, thank you for sharing that information, Monsieur Goulard. This dates back quite a while ago, so it's valuable information. I'll just proceed with the next councillor, Conseiller Denis.
Merci, Madame Maire. Merci, Paul, Marcia, puis Raymond, là, pour la présentation. Je suis bien d'accord avec le projet. Les amis m'ont demandé d'aller jouer, puis j'ai dit, ben, ça me prendrait un défibrillator, puis ils n'ont pas voulu m'en acheter un. C'est dans mes plans d'y aller. Apparemment qu'ils ont beaucoup de plaisir. Mais pour votre projet, je crois que ce serait une bonne addition à le complexe comme c'est là. C'est pas l'air d'être trop dispendieux. Ou qu'on pourrait aller avec, comme vous dites, là, des courses pour faire le tour, là, puis basketball, tennis. Mais il y a aussi de couvrir le tennis court, which would be cost effective, I guess. How many would you put in the tennis court in Sturgeon? Courts for pickleball.
Well, we could probably see ourselves if we were to cover that up. As I said earlier, you can get 3 courts in a tennis court. You can get 3 pickleball courts in. So, it's quite possible that if we could get 6 to 9, or use that space more effectively.
Yeah, that would be a good option, I think. But anyways, any way I can support, I will. And thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Conseiller Alice.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Merci, Paul. Merci, Raymond. Merci, Madame O'Connor. Est-ce que tu parles français, Marsha? You speak French, Marsha?
Oui, je parle français.
Merci beaucoup. Vraiment une bonne présentation. Ça a l'air vraiment, vraiment le fun. Là. Je ne sais pas, j'aurais besoin d'un défrag comme que Denis a dit qu'il avait besoin. Là. Mais comme c'est là, peut-être j'aurais besoin d'une tank d'oxygène. Là. Mais en tout cas, bonne idée, très bonne idée. Ma question est, est-ce que vous avez approché les écoles? Parce qu'il y a des gyms. Je veux dire, on a comme... pardon? OK. Les écoles... On a comme au complexe, on a la grande salle que peut-être que c'est une couple de soirs par semaine qui pourrait être changée, mettre des choses sur le plancher. Là, ça n'interfère pas avec des autres activités s'il y avait quelque chose. En attendant qu'il y ait une solution permanente, parce que moi aussi, j'aimerais bien voir le complexe grossir. Il y a le terrain pour le faire. Je veux dire, c'était dans le master plan. Je veux dire, c'est clair qu'il y a des options. Puis, just the fact that you brought it to our attention, I think maybe, and to apply for grant, I guess like anything else, to apply for grant, there needs to be a plan, because you don't go and apply for a grant and say we want $100,000 in case we need it. So I don't know. I guess que Stéphane, M. Poulain pourrait regarder là-dedans aussi c'est quoi les possibilités, mais j'imagine qu'il y a des discussions à avoir, puis de regarder les options que nous avons dans le Nipissing West présentement. Les écoles, il y a le centre de santé qui ont des salles d'activités, je dis quand même assez grands, juste pour accommoder, surtout durant l'hiver, là, jusque quand il y aura une solution permanente. Alors, tout ça pour vous dire que j'appuie votre projet, c'est clair que c'est très intéressant. N'importe quoi pour promouvoir la santé dans le Nipissing West, il n'y a rien de méchant là-dedans. Là. Puis on veut garder Paul alentour bien longtemps, ça fait qu'on va le faire jouer. So, merci beaucoup, puis
Oui.
j'apprécie votre présentation. Puis la seule, si tu as des réponses, c'est est-ce que vous avez approché les écoles?
Oui, juste pour dire qu'avant COVID, on jouait déjà à Francocité puis à Northern.
Okay.
Aussi, au centre, the Health Center, on jouait là aussi pendant, je pense que c'était l'après-midi, mais il n'y a pas... It's just not enough space for us. But it's certainly pre-COVID, it was an area that we played with. We still need something more permanent in the meantime. And due to COVID right now, there's some restrictions in terms of when we can return to the schools. So we're not really sure. We're waiting to hear back from the ministry on that and from the school boards. So it could be that we won't have the opportunity to play there again this fall and winter. We're hopeful, we're crossing our fingers that changes, but we won't know until the end of September.
Okay, merci,
Merci.
Marsha.
Okay, well, I really want to summarize, all members of council are basically excited and appreciate the information pertaining to this growing sport. And I really want to commend each and every one of you. Félicitations et reconnaître votre engagement de vous avancer vers le conseil pour demander de l'aide, identifier un besoin qui serait avantageux pour les gens de Nipissing West, and also the benefits, pertaining to health and pertaining to the economy. My main concern right now is I think I do remember prior to last winter to assist in finding a temporary location to be able to enjoy pickleball during the winter months. Now, I'm assuming that even if we're discussing a permanent dedicated location, you're probably in the same situation for this upcoming season, pending the decision of the school boards or pending the decision of the health center. I imagine you were playing there in the previous gym, au Centre de Santé. So if ever there's any assistance where that doesn't pan out, maybe depending, there could be temporary locations within West Nipissing or nearby to West Nipissing that may help. But I agree. Listening to what you have to say pertaining to the growing demand and how it can still grow even further, council can definitely support moving an application of plan forward for funding. That's great. And the next step, and this is only a question, like you have your committee, you have your organization, would you be receptive to having a subcommittee that would work together to be able to move this plan forward? And then this way we have, and having the key players around the table, specifically working on the file, on the plan to move the application for a dedicated permanent space for pickleball in West Nipissing. Would your organization be receptive to that?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for even suggesting it. There's no question that we have some not even just the executive, but our membership is very, very anxious to hear more about tonight's meeting in particular. And we have so many people that would be very interested in participating on a committee.
Okay, that would be my suggestion. And I know that this evening, the purpose of the delegation is to bring awareness, information, requests to council. At our next committee of the whole for community services, the issue will be on the agenda. And then this way, council can determine exactly the direction on how to proceed. But I would strongly recommend that if we really want to be proactive and work together and be on the same page, same level of communication. And there's a lot of answers that you're going to be, we have to depend on you for the answers and even the recommendation and even what's the suitability and even promoting this sport even further in West Nipissing. So I think it's a great start. And I really want to say kudos to each and every one of you, right? And looking forward to working together and moving this project forward. And if you need help for temporary location, we'll talk to our resources or administration to see what we have. And if that doesn't pan out, well, then we'll look at what other type of facilities are within the local surroundings.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup for everyone for hearing us out tonight and giving us this opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Merci.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, maintenant, nous procédons avec comité. We proceed with committee, and I'll pass it on to the Chair of General Government, la directrice de la présidente du gouvernement général, conseillère Lise.
Oui, Madame la mairesse, merci beaucoup. Il y a seulement 2 items ce soir, deux choses à discuter sur notre ordre du jour. La première, c'est une second intake of funding, Green Stream under Investing in Canada Infrastructure. And there's a memo that was sent from Mr. Correll, Mr. Ming, and Mr. Ramial. And apparently there's 3 options, but at this point of time, I would like to ask, I don't know, among Mr. Correll and Mr. Ming, and I don't know if Mr. Ramial is there, but if one of you guys could maybe explain exactly what you would like to do and the recommendation, what is the recommendation?
Yeah, that's not a problem. That's what I was expecting to do tonight, was to explain the memo I wrote and go through it. So if you want me to start, I'm ready
Of
to go.
course, I want you to start, Mr. Correll. Go for it.
Okay, basically, there's a new program, in Green Screen 2001 intake for drinking water. It's only for drinking water projects, and it's up to $5 million. The municipality of West Nipissing, the staff are recommending to council that we consider applying for the grant in order to complete, in this case, a trunk water main loop, including a second feed from the water plant in Sturgeon Falls. That's option 3 below. I'll just go through the items we looked at, and then I'll go into more detail into this one after. First thing, the obvious one was to looking at bringing the water to Verner. We've already started the environmental assessment. Well, it's essentially finished now. And to bring a water line to Verner, the problem with it is it's over $10 million, and the grant is only for 5. So I think that was the problem with going ahead with this one. So we started looking at other projects. The second project we're looking at was sort of mixed in with the line to Verner. Is we've always wanted to get a second water line out of the water plant, because that's where the big risk is. If something goes wrong with the first 16-inch line that goes out, then everybody loses water. So we looked at bringing water out of the water plant and bringing it underneath the river along Sabre Road. And then eventually we looked at going all the way to Cache Bay with it to make a total loop. So Cache Bay would have a second feed, and so would Sturgeon. The problem with that is it's probably a $10 million project also, well more than the grant would allow. We could sort of make it smaller, bring the water across the river and loop it back to Cache Bay Road by Sabre, and that would probably be about the $5 million project. But you're having a big water main going where there's no people. So that was one of the things we thought about. The third option is one that I don't know if it's dear to my heart, but it's one thing that I've thought about for a long time. The third option is to extend the water main trunk from the water plant and complete the water main loop that was constructed in 1980. So what happened in 1980, we had an old water plant. We made a brand new 16-inch water line all the way down Nipissing, across the tracks by Michaud Street, down 3rd Street, all the way to where the sewage plant is, back across the river, and then all the way down to Ottawa Street. It ends at Cache Bay Road. It changes to a 12 just as it crosses, it goes down Ottawa Street, but it was never finished. So what happens now is if something goes wrong with the water main loop that also feeds Cache Bay now, is there's essentially no way to fix it other than closing the whole system down. So what would be really good is to actually have a second feed out of the water plant and get it back to where the water main loop ends at Cache Bay Road and Ottawa. It's actually on Dufferin. And then you have a loop going one way or the other. We did 2 things over the years that makes it easier. In 1984, when we built the John Street bridges, we put a 14-inch water line underneath the bridges and connected to it. So it's a 14-inch water line that's essentially got a 6-inch at one end and an 8-inch at the other end. But when we built the bridges, we wanted to make sure that in the future, if we wanted to do the loop, we wouldn't have to redo it in that area. The second thing we did in when we did the water plant it opened in 1991, we started in 88, was we actually put a second feed. Like we have a 16-inch water line coming out of the water plant, and we have another 10-inch water line that comes out of it also. So if we could connect that 10-inch water line to the 12 that's on Ethel Street, and then we were thinking running it back all the way down Ethel and up King Street to John, and then John to the bridges, and then a short section from the John Street bridges to Ottawa Street. We own the property where the old mill property is now, so it'd be rather easy to do. The actual sizes and everything was probably more like a 14-inch or 16-inch in that area, because we already have the capacity for it. But that's the third project, is to actually complete the water main loop. This way, if anything went wrong with the 1980 loop that's been done, at least you have a second way to get water to the residents of Sturgeon and to the residents of Cache Bay. Sort of just funny, in 1980, the project started in 80 and ended in 81. And that just happens to be when I started working for the municipality of Sturgeon. So that's been 40 years now. So that's just a little sideline. But over all the years, we've done big things like build the water plant. We did a lot of other things, but we've sort of let this part of the waterworks go, because there hasn't been a real source of funding that's been available to do this kind of project until recently. There's been a couple of times over the years where we built water plants, or we built the connections to Cache Bay and and we've done a lot of sewer projects, but this would sort of finish it off. And I should say one other thing: the water line, the water trunk in 1980 was just a brand new project. It was really good. We weren't worried about anything anymore. But 40 years later, we're having trouble turning off valves in it. There's water butterfly valves, and we can't even exercise them, because if we try to work on them, then we have to shut off the water to the whole town. So there is some issues that are starting to come on with age. And if we could get a second line out of the water plant and then bring it across the bridges and connect it to the existing loop, at least you have a new water line. You can run the water to the whole municipality and to Cache Bay, and then you can work on the old sections that need work. And I think in the long run, it'd be really good. So that project is probably around $5 million. We added a little extra in there on John Street, because there is no water main, to bring it back to the loop on a second way also, just to help things out, because there might be money for it. If the actual project does actually go a little bit over the limits, then we just have to take out that part, that sort of thing. So that's what we're looking at doing. If you looked at the drawings, figure 1 just shows in the dark lines with the sort of our main water lines are, and then the second drawing is the red parts is the new connection out of the water plant and to the water tower, then back down Ethel to King, up King, and then up John to the bridges, the small section I mentioned to get to Ottawa. And then the sort of optional part is to go on John Street the other way from King back to Nipissing, to make a second loop in there to help things out. So that's basically what we could look at doing. And I think it ticks a lot of the boxes, because when you're doing risk assessment for these grants, putting a second feed out of the water plant is very important. And also to loop the water around, so you have 2 ways for the water to go, is also another very important part. And I think we'd score high on their list of being able to get the grants. And also some of our oldest water lines left in the municipality are on Ethel and King and John. So I think that ticks the boxes where we're having problems with valves, and we're having trouble with the water mains and that sort of thing. So I think it would work out well for the grant, but we'd have to get your approval to apply for it.
Thank you very much, Monsieur Corral. Very good presentation. I'm going to go around and ask Councillor and Madame Maire if they have questions. I'll start with Monsieur Conseiller Duhaime, s'il vous plaît. Avec le micro, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Lise. Alan, Mr. Corral, I do like the idea of going down Ethel and King and connecting to John to go over and you know, like you mentioned, there's a 6-inch pipe there connecting to a 14 and then an 8 afterwards.
Well, I think it's even worse than that, actually, because the 6-inch comes up River Street. The section on John Street from the bridges back to Holditch is a 4-inch. It's a 4-inch where the hill is.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's probably the key place to do it. And one of the main reasons it's always been really hard to fix that hill because it's all rock. But if you actually put a 14-inch water main on it, and you're going to have to blast and you're going to have to take out the hill. So I guess that's a side benefit of that area. But it's something that's been expensive and it's really hard to do. But once you've done it, I think you're good.
But it certainly sounds interesting. I could see the Ethel Street. I'd love to get that done, and then we can do the street over again. Just saying. But no, I think the project warrants to look at for sure. With respect to applying for the grant, is there a possibility that they would give you less than 5 million?
Well, I mean, I guess it's a possibility, but you can apply for projects up to $5 million. And we haven't done the big cost analysis, but as I said, we do have that optional phase in there. It's probably about a $3.5 million project, and you add another $1.5 million for the other section of John Street to get done. So you can make that decision when we get to it, whether you want to apply for the 3.5, 4, or you want to go for the whole $5 million.
Okay, so this evening you're looking at asking council whether we want you to apply for a grant. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
I totally support that. I think there's, like you say, it's been 40 years. The project has never been completed properly, and I think and the pipes are getting older, valves, everything. So it would be a good project to look at, because then we'd be good for another 50, 60 years, hopefully. So no, I agree with what you're asking for. Thank you, Mr. Correll.
Merci, conseiller Yvon. Maintenant, nous allons à conseiller Fisher. Please, your turn.
Thank you. So I just have a couple of questions, and just basically conceptually, I want to make sure you basically want to build in more fail safes, second lines, better loops, so that the system is more manageable. And you didn't say this directly, but I get the feeling that you sort of, not as a prerequisite necessarily to get to Verna, but we're in much better shape, the infrastructure at the back, to put that line in. You didn't say that directly, so I just want to ask that question. And then my other question would be, if we got the funding tomorrow, well, okay, let's say we got the funding in the spring. Is this a year project or is it a 2-year project? That kind of thing. Those are my two questions. Thank you.
Well, basically, I think the first part of your question was whether, for a cache bay or burner, bringing the water further along, or even the rest of Sturgeon, having this project done just makes it a lot. You can get water essentially 2 ways into that area. So as opposed to having, I don't think we could ever look at getting 2 water mains to Verna, but you could only get 1. But at least you make sure that you actually have water more often. And I think to Cache Bay, I think we've only lost water a couple of times since it was done in the, I guess water was done in around 1996 or 7 or something like that. I think we've only lost water once or twice, and it's when we had to shut down the 16-inch valve, I think, and that's when it was done. So if you have the water coming around another way, then you're making your chances a lot better. And the second part of the question was again?
Approximately how long to do this?
Oh yeah, how long is it going to take? Yeah, well, the water main projects, at least on the existing part, you don't have to do environmental assessments, that sort of thing. So you're basically just doing the design and doing the construction. So if they told us, you apply for it, and they told us in January that you got it, then it's probably about 4 or 5 months to do the design, and you could tender it. And a lot of the work can be done even in the winter time and stuff, but it probably wouldn't start till the next year, but it'll be a 2-year project probably.
So yeah, so thank you, and I support your recommendation, and I would support going after the funding. Thanks.
Thank you, Conseiller Fisher. Conseiller Larrabee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in total support of this. This would be a security for the municipality of Sturgeon Falls and also Cache Bay. And as we know, water is going to go to Verner eventually. So definitely, I'm full support of this. This is a beautiful plan. And it's nice to see the work that started in 1980 when you were there, Mr. Carell. So it's a very good asset for West Nipissing to have you on this project on our team. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Rollet. Conseiller Mallette maintenant.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, thank you, Alan, for your presentation. And yeah, I totally agree with your suggestion. I think the third option is the one you're looking at, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Corral.
Yes.
Okay. So I agree with your recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Léo. Conseiller Dan, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So basically, you're recommending extending the water main trunk in Sturgeon to create the loop. And the loop is going to be created in the sense of getting rid of the various sizes that we're dealing with. Now, I just want to ask the question I think Mr. Councillor Duhaime was alluding to. If we do Ethel and we do John, do we, like we're doing underground, are we going to resurface the road?
Well, basically, if you're putting a large size water main in there, a 16, anywhere from 12 to 16, depending exactly, and it's usually 2 meters in the ground, you're going to be losing pretty well the road pretty well above. You can pretty well guarantee that.
Excellent.
And then you have other decisions to make at the time. If you do get money for Ethel Street and King Street, that area, you'll have to decide whether you wanted to replace any of the sanitary and storm and those sort of issues. But this grant would be for the water and the water only, because that's all you can apply for. And then other decisions will have to be made in the future.
So that's excellent news. Thank you, Alan. Mr. Carell, is there any truth to the fact when you do a loop, the water is better in the sense that it doesn't have
it's always better if you can go 2 ways around.
Okay.
This way, when you can actually do more directional flushing and that thing of your hydrants to get out any impurities and that sort of thing. If you only have one way around, it makes it harder in some of the areas to do it. You can still do it. It just having directional flushing programs with a loop makes it easier. And also water quality at the end of your loops, say on the other side of the bridges, the water's in the pipes a lot longer when it comes the other way around than if you have 2 ways of getting around. So you're probably bringing the water age probably down by half anyway. So it's always better to have fresher water to everybody and quicker, and it's better. You got more chlorine. There's a lot of good things about it.
Supplemental to that, Madam Chair?
Yes.
So just to reiterate, I think what Councillor Fisher was saying is that this is a good idea in the sense that it will make the project of Verner much more palatable, I guess, when we do.
I think it would. When you do it, it's going to make the water. It'll get there a lot safer and a lot more often, and that sort of issue. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carell. I support this wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Dan. Conseiller Denis, s'il vous plaît. Madame la mairesse, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Carell, I want to say thank you for bringing this forward and have in the consideration of moving forward with something that's going to be beneficial and needed for a water project. Just a few questions and maybe a comment. So we can apply up to 5 million. So what was described about the second feed from the water plant to be able to have the loop? We're looking at 3.5 million, but then we're incorporating other streets, which will bring it to 5 million. So pending what the government is going to approve, that will give us a direction of exactly the work that we're going to be approved, and council to see whether or not if they want to contribute more or not. Would that be correct,
Yeah, I said the main loop is about 3.5, but I don't know if anybody really realizes it, but John Street itself doesn't have a water main on it hardly at all. So I think bringing it back to King is one thing, but it would be really good if we could bring it all the way back to Nipissing and tie it up to the 16 again. It would really make it a lot safer for everything. But if you didn't get the funds, at least you could hold that part of the project. You'd still have the loop, you'd still have the second feed. It'd be better if we could do that also, but if you can't,
That's right.
I guess that's basically.
Okay, okay. And we'll keep our fingers crossed that, we get the funding and that we get the maximum for $5 million so we can do everything that's being recommended. Now, just a very quick question. I know that throughout prior years, there was always discussion about the lifting stations across the bridge. Now, with this project, would that affect or would that replace or would there be a loop pertaining to the lifting stations that are across?
That's sewage lift stations. That's
okay.
Totally
so
different. This is only for water. Yeah.
Okay, so that clarifies that. And I totally am in support because we're looking at aging infrastructure. It's a mechanism that we can ensure that if ever there's a need, if there's ever a problem, then we do have a backup that we can supply the water to the affected residents for this area without everyone being down and having no water. That's my interpretation. So I support the recommendation, and I believe that the timeline to apply for this funding is approaching very quickly. So we have a resolution for this evening to provide authorization approval to proceed with the funding application. Is that required for you, Mr. Carrell, for this evening?
I believe there's one on the agenda.
Okay, perfect. Because I thought I had read that the deadline to apply was in the near future, within days.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, kudos to you. Kudos to the team of Water and Sewer for looking at this initiative and bringing this forward to council for consideration.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. Conseiller Sénécal. Denis.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I guess everything's been said pretty well. I'd just like to say thank you to Alan and Peter for being proactive on this, and I think it's a win-win situation, and I'll support it, whatever you need. Thank you.
Okay, so that's, my God, I'm almost afraid to say it, but it's a majority tonight supporting that project. It's a very obviously well-worked project. So I don't have to go around and ask a question. I think what I heard is everybody saying, yes, they're approving, but on top of that, they want you to apply for the 5 million. So at this point of time, I guess that would, if there's no other, well, everybody said their comments. So I would thank you very much, Mr. Carrell, for your presentation. Good work, and it's going to be a major announcement for our municipality. So thank you very much, and we'll definitely support the resolution now. So okay, now we're going to the second item, which is a request from Marcel Labbé family naming of municipal asset and as a memorial for him. Obviously, most of us around the table, maybe there's a couple that doesn't know, like I'm thinking about Conseiller Fisher, maybe was not around at that time in 1964, but it started that long. I think he was very, very mostly one of the major player in the arena, also the complex, the pool. So we don't have to say how much he contributed to the municipality. I don't think. I know that we have a bylaw that's been approved, and I think at this point of time, I will ask around if there's any comment, but I don't know if you read all the paper. I don't want to go through everything, but I mean, what the memo state also that it's very important that the complex could be a little bit more tricky to name, change the name of the complex or to add Marcel Labbé on it, because I mean, it's known as I don't know if it's West Nipissing or Sturgeon Falls Complex for that matter. So all the site, website, and so I can understand, and I think it would be a, I don't know how to say it, but a bigger job or maybe a little bit longer. So I think we have the opportunity tonight to, because we have the pool and we have the arena that we could name. And I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if I would have to talk to our clerk or our CEO that we could make the decision tonight. It's been on the table for a while. So I am going to go around, and at the same time, like I want a sense, because there's a couple of things that can be named on. So, but I think the first thing, it may be the comment and or any question, and then we'll go around to see, because I think what we have right now is the pool or the arena. So I don't know if there's anything else that we can name. Yes, when we go around, if you have any idea, you can mention it, okay? But the complex itself, for me is, but if you want to name the complex, I would be in agreement also, but it's a lot more work. So I'll start with Conseiller Yvon. If you have any question, comment, if everybody had read all the, what was provided to us in our package. So Conseiller Yvon?
Merci, Madame Denicad. First and foremost, I had an opportunity to witness and watch Marcel Labbe and his lovely wife worked ever so hard in trying to raise funds for the municipality with regards to the arena and the pool complex. I witnessed them sitting there for evenings on end during events and whatnot, and trying to sell tickets. And to say that he was instrumental is not probably enough. He was the core of trying to create something in this municipality that would be favorable to everyone. He worked ever so hard. He made contributions himself for the facilities, a large contribution, and just the volunteer and the work involved as far as himself and his wife are phenomenal. And I would support naming either the arena or the pool. I certainly have no problem. I think it warrants that. I've yet to see anyone dedicate his time to these projects, and I think it's well worth giving that opportunity of naming a building or place or space under his name. I would ask every councillor please to support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Conseiller Yvon. Now I will go to Conseiller Fisher.
Thank you. So yeah, we now have a bylaw, and I guess there's a little process to follow there. And I have no objection to this whatsoever. Reading the letter and the history, what makes sense to me, because it was is what he initially went after the arena. That was his first project. So just so that I'm throwing something out and we're being decisive, I would say the arena. And yeah, I support it, and I would go for the arena. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Conseiller Fisher. Now I will go to Conseiller Larrabee, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also agree. We do have to recognize and honor our people that have dedicated many, many hours in volunteering. And with this, I agree with Yvon and I agree with Chris. We should, and if it's the arena that he had worked on first, then I don't have any problem supporting dedicating the arena. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Larrabee. Maintenant, Conseiller Mallette.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I also agree with the naming the arena after Marcel Labbe. And like Yvon said, he put a lot, him and Jane put a lot of hours for fundraising for that place. So no, I'm okay with the arena.
Conseiller Dan.
I have no issue with what's being recommended. The only thing that I was going to add is that there's the pool and the Hall of Fame that we'll probably have to name after we finish this one. And the thing is I'd like to know whether what we're going to do in the future. Are we going to make a list of all the buildings we want to identify as renaming? Because I think that's going to be an issue too in the future now that we've accepted one. So I have no issue if everybody around the table wants to go with the arena. Great. And I think that we should still look at naming the Hall of Fame and the pool to certain individuals that went beyond their service. But no, I agree with my colleagues. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, conseiller Dan. Madame la mairesse? Madame Savage?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Definitely concur. There's recognition. There was a submission brought forward by the family, and this individual committed over 31 years for the betterment of West Nipissing, was instrumental for the realization of the arena. I also want to highlight that his spouse, Jane Leby, was really instrumental as well in helping out and also with the pool. Now, by reviewing the request by the family, they identified either the arena or the complex. And the memo that was provided to us this evening identified that the complex is called the West Nipissing Cultural and Recreation Center, but within that center, there's the arena, La Salle Marcel Noël, the Hall of Fame, the Pool and Fitness Center. So I concur the Sturgeon Falls Arena should be named the Marcel Leby Arena. And hopefully, it seems that there's majority that notification will be shared to the family who submitted the request, and that definitely council should also look forward in doing the official naming proclamation based on the availability of the family, and doing the changes that are required to be able to get this implemented sooner than later.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Conseiller Denis Sénécal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Everything's been said again, so yes, I concur that the arena should be named after Mr. Leby.
Okay. Well, obviously, I had the opportunity to know Marcel, both of them, for a long period of time. Very, very nice people. They definitely, Marcel, deserve all the honor that he could get. And I mean, just simply my thought, because you did not see Marcel without Jane. The only time you see that Jane was not there is when they were sitting at the council table. But when they were doing selling ticket, when they were phone call, I think they were a team. They were a team. And I just maybe I definitely support the arena, but can we name it Marcel and Jane Leby, the arena? I think that would be an honor, because I mean, everybody that was around Sturgeon Falls and West Nipissing when the arena was the first arena, and then everything else, you did not see Marcel Noël without Jane selling ticket, promoting, even the arena. He bought some macaron for every kid in the school. So I think it would be, that would be, I think, for him a little bit more honor to have his wife attached to the name if we would do that. But it's just a simple thought. Obviously, we can name just Marcel Noël. I'm thinking always Marcel Noël. Yes, I'm gonna go around, but I like to finish if I can, and I see your hands up. So like I said, right now we know that the arena, it's a majority that are in favor for the arena to name it Marcel. So Conseiller Fisher and then Conseiller Yvon.
Well, I was just going to agree with you, just simply because that was his wife was mentioned, the people that know, and I actually, I mean, I wasn't around and they don't know I wasn't here, but what you just said, Lise, makes sense to me. It could either be Jane and Marcel, or it could be J and M or whatever, but I concur.
All right. Thank you, Conseiller Fisher. Maintenant, Conseiller Duhaime.
Merci, Lise. Thank you, Chris. I agree. It should be Marcel and Jane Arena. She was his shadow, and she worked with him. She supported him 100%. So I agree with Marcel, Jane Labbe Arena. Thank you very much, Lise.
Madame la mairesse?
I totally support your recommendation. And if council concurs that the arena be named Marcel and Jane Labbe Arena, I think what we should do is inquire with the family to see if they are in agreement. And if they are in agreement, that both names be reflected to name the arena, then we proceed. And if they would prefer just to have Marcel Labbe Arena, I think we should ask the family if they agree. But I support it. I totally support it.
Okay, and yeah, I might be, I don't see it because I mean, they were one, so, but I mean, I think there's nothing wrong in asking to confirm because the request was for Marcel. So I'm pretty sure a phone call and it would be clarified. And if the person said, yeah, that would be great. Then I think we're ready to give direction to staff that this is what we're going to do. And we're just, I think, I'm not too sure which will be responsible to, would it be Monsieur Poulain that would be calling with the someone from the family?
Well, if I may, Madam Chair, just as a point of clarification, since this issue was addressed to council, I think council is providing direction to staff regarding the naming of what facility. I have no objection to call the proponent who submitted the request to council and see if they concur with the naming of both parents.
I got something better, Madam Mayor, because I propose a recommendation. I will call them if council don't have any problem. So it doesn't matter. It could be staff. It could be anybody. It's just a phone call.
Please proceed, Madam Chair. That would be my opinion.
Everybody in agreement with that? And I'll call, I guess I'll call Monsieur Poulain when, or I'll ask, it's Diane that I'm going to call, I guess. So everybody's okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, so that concludes this part, this committee. So thank you very much. Back to you, Madame Mayor.
Thank you, Madame Chair. On procède maintenant avec la partie régulière de la réunion with the regular council portion. And we move on to correspondence and accounts under F1. Minutes for August 17th. Is there a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Yvon. Need a seconder. Conseiller Leo. You're just on mute.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the minutes of the meeting of council held on the 17th day of August 2021 be adopted as presented.
Are there any questions or comments pertaining to the minutes? Okay. Okay. Are there any objections? Aucune objection. None. Carried. Adopté. F2. Minutes for the special council meeting of August 30th. Mover and a seconder. Conseiller Denis, Conseiller Dan.
It is moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Revita. Be it resolved that the minutes of the special meeting of council held on August 30th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
Questions, comments? None. Any objections? Aucune objection. None. Carried. Adopté. To adopt the minutes of the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of June 14th. Mover and a seconder. Conseiller Yvon. Conseiller Denis.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Denise Senecal. Be it resolved that the minutes of the West Nipissing Planning Advisory Committee meeting held on the 14th of June 2021 be adopted as presented.
Any objections? Aucune objection. None. Carried. Adopté. To receive the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment of June 14, Au Chateau Board meeting April 28, West Nipissing Environmental Services Board meeting February 1st and April 7th, and the North Bay Perry Sound District Health Unit Board meeting, April 28. Is there a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Leo.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following boards and committees be received. West Nipissing Committee of Adjustment, June 14th. Chateau Board of Management, April 8th. West Nipissing Environmental Services, February 1st and April 7th. And North Bay Perry Sound District Health Unit, April 28th.
Are there any questions or any comments? None? Any objections? Aucune objection. None? Carried. Adopté. We move on to the next section, notice of motion, avis de motion. For H1, I will ask the deputy mayor to preside for this one section, since the motion was brought forward by myself, who presently is chairing the meeting. So I'll ask the deputy mayor to preside the matter of H1, notice of motion for the use of water at the Burner RV dumping station.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
if I can't, could we have a break? We're nearing 8 o'clock now.
Okay, no, well, okay, so I'm going to make the assumption that you are moving the request for a recess before proceeding to the notice of motion. And I see that Councillor Lee seconds your motion. So I'll just ask our clerk to prepare the resolution so we can call it to a vote. Now, are members seeking a 10-minute recess or a 15-minute recess?
15 minutes reset.
Everyone in agreement with 15 minutes? Show majority says yes. Okay.
It is moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. At approximately 7:55 p.m., a motion was tabled for a 15-minute recess, following which council will continue.
Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried. And I just want to re-ask the time just so I can match it to my watch. Can I keep?
7:56.
Okay, perfect. So it means that we should be reconvening by 10 after 8? Okay, perfect. So a 15-minute recess.
Est-ce que tu m'as compris?
Okay, so we're just missing 2 counselors. And I have 8:10 on my watch. Oh, now we're missing only 1 counselor.
Chris.
Donc, we move on to the notice of motion, avis de motion. H1, since the motion, notice of motion form was completed by myself as mayor, and normally it's not the chair that moves a motion, I will ask the deputy mayor to chair this portion.
Thank you, Madame Menace. You have before you a notice of motion that was presented by Mayor Joanne Savage.
Mr. Deputy Mayor,
Yes,
I
please.
need a seconder for the motion and I need to read it into the record.
Okay, the seconder is Lee Senecal.
It is moved by Mayor Joanne Savage and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. Whereas at the meeting of June 22nd, 2021, a verbal report was provided regarding the misuse of water at the Verner RV dumping station and other RV dumping stations in West Nipissing. And whereas a measures option to control water use at the Verner dumping station was to be discussed by the August 2021 council meeting, whereas requesting matter and options be discussed at September 7th, 2021 meeting.
Merci, Madame Clerk. So you have the motion as it was read. I will now therefore ask Madame, our Mayoress, Madame Savage, pour an explanation if she wants to proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I brought the motion forward because I did receive several inquiries subsequent to the meeting where we had the discussion to temporarily shut down the water at the Verner RV dumping station. And since then, there's also been inquiries pertaining to the other dumping station and the control of the use of water. And I support the decision that council took at the time to shut the water off, okay, so we could explore an options. But it also provided me the opportunity to visit the various RV dumping stations. One thing that was observed, and I'll allude to the fact of the one in Verner, there's not even a sign at the RV dumping station in Verner identifying who can use the water. So I concur that there was misuse in large quantities of water that was being taken from this site, but nowhere was there a sign identifying who was entitled to use that water. So if there's nothing to identify the public that had recourse to the actual location, they would retrieve whatever quantity. So it brought me to go around to other dumping stations. And other dumping stations really don't make reference on what's being prohibited. Why is the water there and why is the water to be used? So my request this evening is I do know that staff is looking at options, and I think that council, and I'm not going to be putting words in council's for council's position, is that we had a sentiment that at one given point, we wanted to make sure that the service regarding water and the treatment of sewage, we'd have a philosophical discussion pertaining to who should be paying for it. Because right now it's the users that are paying for the system and the non-users do not pay for the system. However, to look at the mechanism and finding out what council desires, that takes time. But in the interim, I would request that there be a signage put up at the Verner RV dumping station, identifying the use of water and who is entitled to use it. Right now, we have residents who are users of the water system in Verner that travel to Sturgeon, and they come back with comments saying that they were in line because they were observing individuals in line at the dumping station for Sturgeon, and they were filling up reservoirs of water and was not being used to flush the tank of their RV. So there's really some inconsistencies with that, and I get the issue about the strain on the water system in Verner, but at this, Verner has not experienced a decrease or a reduced water capacity usage. It was mostly with the treatment of the water source of the treatment plant, which created brown water. So on that note, I think I've identified exactly what is the request for discussion, unless staff have other recommendations to share with council pertaining to the options that can be implemented.
Merci, Madame Maires. So we'll do a roundtable here if anyone wants to speak on a matter. So I'd like to go to Councillor Chris Fisher. If he has something to say.
Not really much. I mean, my understanding of it is, you know, we're just the most vulnerable water source we've got in the municipality is Verner, and we're just trying to protect it. You know, there might be the person in Verner that has a trailer and they're inconvenienced, but in terms of all the residents of Verner, then I just don't have a problem with it. I think it's fine. Thank you.
So I'll go to Councillor Rowley. Thank you. Sorry, Rowley.
Thank you. Thank you, Yvonne. I think to resolve all of these problems at every site for the abuse, if a system was set up like you have for when you go to a gas station, you pay $1, you get some air. So if you would have that, people would just use enough water to flush their tank. They would not go to fill up big reservoir because it would cost them. And the that way the water that would be used, it would not be the taxpayers of the water system that would be paying for it. It would be the ones that would go to get it, that would pay for it. So that would resolve the abuse. That would resolve the money aspect of it. But as far as the Verner system, as far as I'm concerned, I think it was a wise decision to close it because Verner has a lot of issues. And before we resolve those issues, I think Verner should remain the way it is because we want to protect the water because that source is very vulnerable and we have to protect it. So I think this is the way we should go. Thank you.
Thank you, Monsieur Rowley. I'm sorry. Okay, now to Léo Mallette, Conseiller Léo Mallette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I concur with Councillor Rowley. And, I know I've talked to people in Verner and they were glad that we went to that route because, I mean, there's people with trailers, they come and fill it up and then they go to their trailer, but they don't pay for the system. They don't pay for the water. I know maybe some of them are taxpayers, but they pay their taxes, but they don't pay for the water and sewer. So I'm glad I agree with Councillor Rowley and keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Conseiller Léo. Conseiller Dan Rivida.
Thank you, Councillor Jaime. I probably won't discuss the content of this. The process, I'm a little it's a little observed because the thing is we did ask for a report. Perhaps maybe the report was not available and that's why it's not here. I totally agree with Councillor Mallette and Councillor Ladabi that we did the right decision for Verner and Verner should stay the same. Now that the mayor has opened up the door about Sturgeon Falls, I know that Councillor Jaime and I received an email from a constituent actually on the weekend stating that he was appalled at the number of people that were getting water in Sturgeon and dumping in Sturgeon, and that it even had caused a traffic jam on Corsal. So, Madam Mayor, you opened it up. So perhaps what we should be doing is asking for a report, as I think we did. I'm positive that we did. We asked for a report. The report was probably not available at this time, so that's why we didn't have it. And I will leave it in the good hands of our staff. I think they know what they're doing. So that, I agree with Councillor Ladabi, Councillor Mallette, and I think we should keep Verner closed. The signage, I don't think would make any difference, and I would probably vote against that. Thank you.
Merci, Dan.
I'd like to make a point of clarification if I may.
Just a clarification, yes.
Yeah. Council was to get a report on the options. And council was informed that there'd be a report that would be coming forward at the August meeting. Unfortunately, that report was not provided. So I'm making that point of clarification because it was stated in a public forum that if it did not come back to council by July, that there would be information that would come back to council's attention for further discussion in August.
Thank you, Madam.
Supplemental to that, Mr.
Well, I'd rather
Mr.
not, Dan. You had a good point there, and we'll leave it at that. I thank you very much.
No, I think I'm allowed. I'm appealing.
But Dan, she presented the motion. She has a right to explain it.
No, I have
to define. Okay, Dan, I'll let you speak for this matter. Unless you, I'm not going to get into argumental here.
Okay,
please.
Perhaps we should be asking Mr. Barbeau his recollection of the events. Mr. Chair, through you, Mr. Chair.
If Mr. Barbeau's available, sure. Mr. Barbeau, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I was kind of cornered a little bit, saying, can you get a report next meeting? Can you get the report, if not the next meeting? You know, when you ask me these things in public, I do my best to try and guess, but we also have other things we have to do. We have chair of public, or the manager of public works, who's just busy pulling off a lot of money stuff, and Peter Ming pulling off a lot of money stuff, and all kind of stuff. And then we've had a couple meetings on this, and it's not as simple. In fact, just listening to all of you, you have about 4 or 5 versions of what you would like to see. And we also, as as staff, have to assume, and in the absence of clear direction, what works. And so some of our parameters is, by all costs, make sure that the Verner system remains healthy and vibrant. I suggest a slightly different alternative that that the mayor or council may not see, in that no, the Verner system suffers from low water on many years. It's not only a water quality issue, and thanks and kudos to the staff there for running low water levels and still maintaining quality water. But if the council wasn't aware of that, but no, there's sometimes we've even had boil water advisories for low water. So moving on, we have been discussing this issue. One of our parameters is, can we do things in a safe manner to protect the Verner system? And then if we start putting systems in place for one system of water users, what do we do for all water users? In fact, and so that's what we're looking at. Staff had provided a draft report, but I don't think they touched everything that council wanted. And so because typically we do our infrastructure stuff in the second week of July, I've instructed them with a few other questions to finalize that report. So you can appreciate that they're working on it, and that they try their best to get reports on a timely fashion, but they also are professionals and need a little bit of respect when dealing with other priorities in this municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay Barbeau. Okay, so I'll proceed to Conseiller Denis Sénécal for a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess it would have been nice to have some sort of update on the report. That's all we need, right? They told us August, so we're in September and we've never heard anything. So just an update would have been nice. I think it's not a big issue. As for
No,
this,
you're so right. You're so right.
I have the
I'm
floor.
sorry. Let's go ahead. Go ahead.
You have the floor. I have the floor.
Mr. Sénécal, please go ahead.
Yes, sorry about the interruption. As for the signage, I think it's a good idea to let the residents know what's going on in their little town. And if you don't put a sign, nobody knows what's going on. You just shut off the water, and are we supposed to guess, or are they supposed to guess what's going on? I think it's a public issue. Just let the public know what's going on, and it's a simple sign. Maybe at a later date we can have another report at one time. But anyways, we were promised a report in August, and we didn't get it. That's all I'm saying. So that's my.
Thank you, Monsieur Sénécal. Okay, Madame Lee Sénécal. She's on mute. Lise, you're on mute. Sorry. Mute.
Okay, I did have a few residents addressing the issue with me also, and some from Sturgeon, the same issue that Conseiller Dan replied. Obviously, it's an issue all over the place that people is abusing the system. I mean, and something need to be done. I think they need, it's a valuable, can you imagine at the end of next month, like when everybody's going or whatever. So we need to find a way. And as far as the report, I think if it's not possible to do report in the summer, well, I think maybe we should said that it's going to be available, because people that watching, they're expecting it, and then we're getting the question. So I would have appreciated just an update. We're working on it. It's a lot more complicated than it is, but I mean, just so, and publicly people will know that at least they're working on it. So that's my only comment on that. And I will definitely support sign, because I mean, I mean, if there were no sign on the highway for speed limit, I think I would be driving a lot faster than I'm driving right now. So we need to know what's going on and what is permitted. And then if there's camera, there can be fine. And I mean, there's idea on the table, and we'll by next year, hopefully, it's going to be solved. So that's the only thing I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Madame Lise Senecal. Okay, so my view, or my point of view on this here is that we've been discussing this for many years now. And what's happening is that a lot of the people within the municipality of Sturgeon and Verner and whatnot have been arguing or disputing the fact that there are high bills of water and sewer, and they're seeing people abuse it and using it ever so often. The closure in Verner has certainly had an impact on the one in Sturgeon. And it's actually the only two that we have that they can relieve the trailers for sewer and retain water for the trailers. I would like to see signage in Verner explaining why it had been closed. But in essence, I would like to see in the future a mechanism that would, like a car wash coin mechanism that turns the water on and off so everybody pays. And I'd like to see that put in every location that has water and sewer for the trailers. But I would be very hopeful if we would maybe support signage in Verner explaining why we've done it, and then wait for a complete report on this matter in the future so we can discuss it and move forward, because a lot of people in our communities want to see something happening. They don't think it's fair that everybody is allowed to use water and sewer without having to pay for some fees or some kind. And if we did that, it would certainly help alleviate the problems that we're having with people complaining to councillors with respect to how people are abusing it. So this is my thinking here. I guess in essence, does anybody have any problems in maybe just putting up a sign in Verner explaining why the water was closed? Is that a problem to anybody? Jake, Mr. Barbo, can that be done?
Well, procedurally, there's a specific sorry, I look like I was cut off. There's a resolution on the table. You have a notice of motion for a specific resolution. That's what's on the agenda. I will be bringing a report back as instructed to do. So I won't try and throw a last word here because I know that I won't get it. But the issue is when you try and ask me in public, when a report from my staff could be provided, it's a little bit problematic. So, yeah. So they're dealing with other things serving the public. But what I indicated to you originally when I started speaking was that we're working on some of these issues with respect to the pros and cons of revenue collection. How do we collect it? How do we account for it? Security issues with the money, all of that stuff is not as simple as you think. It's not an abracadabra stuff. And so when council wants to put something before, when staff wants to put something before council, they want it to be thought out. And please allow us the appropriate time to ensure that we have a solution so we don't have to come back every time to think about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barbo. Madam Medes, you have a question?
Yeah. No, I guess, you know what, based on what I'm hearing is that in the future, when there are discussions taking place and for an elected official to ask for clarity or to ask questions, it sounds like it's a little bit prohibited, because I recall at the meeting when it wasn't a formal resolution, but it was a recommendation to temporarily de fermer l'eau temporaire à la station de Verner. Oui, j'ai demandé la question, qu'est-ce qu'on peut s'attendre d'avoir un rapport? Est-ce que ça va être la prochaine réunion? J'ai apprécié le fait que ça a été soulevé, que les chances sont minimes que ça revienne au mois de juillet, mais on a reçu la direction du conseil et on vous revient au mois d'août. So, you know what? Right now, when I hear that because of asking questions, staff feel cornered, I will say that staff should not feel cornered because elected officials are asking questions to respond to constituents. And that's my comment, because I do not wish to get into a debate, but I'd like it to be known that if I do have questions to ask for precision, that is within the right of an elected official.
Thank you, Madame Medes. And Mr. Barbeau?
No one's questioning any municipal councilor's right to ask questions. All I was commenting on is in future, ask maybe when can the report be ready? And please provide us some indulgence that we run a lot of things here and some things perhaps don't. And if you, Madam Mayor, you kind of revise history a little bit, but you asked me when it's available. If I say it's not available when we're doing these agenda things, it's because it's not available. It isn't because we're not doing it. It's just because it's not available. Staff will attest to the fact that we've been trying. Now, this seems to be a performance issue, but keep going. I'm enjoying it.
So, Mr. Dan Rivera, you have a question? Mr. Dan?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we just move forward? What are we voting on? Madam Clerk, please, what are we voting on?
Well, in essence, Mr. Rivera, what's happening here is that the matter of the water in Verner, which was due to be discussed in June or August, we were wondering when we would be getting a report on this, and we're voting on. And realistically, what the notice of motion really did is that we discussed the issue pertaining to what was asked for, and in regards to Mr. Barbeau, he had indicated that there's a discussion or a request of options to be discussed in the near future with respect to what we were asking or talking about. Dan?
Supplemental to that, Mr. Dehaene, can you, Madam, can you reread the motion so we can vote on it, please?
It is moved by Mayor Joanne Savage and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. Whereas at a meeting of June 22nd, 2021, a verbal report was provided regarding the misuse of water at the Verner RV dumping station and other RV dumping stations in West Nipissing. And whereas measures and options to control the water at the Verner dumping station was to be discussed by the August 2021 council meeting. And whereas requesting matter and options be discussed at September 2021 meeting.
Okay, so Monsieur Rivera, if you may, what the motion, what we've done with the motion as written here is we've discussed it at the September 7th meeting already, and we're discussing it now. The results of the discussion was that Mr. Barbeau has promised to bring the required options to the council in the very near future, as he had mentioned. So we'll leave it at that, and hopefully, but I would like to see if it's at all possible, Mr. Barbeau, if we can put a signage of something in Verner explaining very simple why the water is closed, if that's not a big problem. Rowley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think with that website, Verner on Spout, I see comments going on there. I see the mayor responding to some comments on that site. So the people of Verner are very well aware that they turned the tap and the water is not running. So I think we should wait for the report that staff is going to provide to us, and then we'll take it from there. I don't think a sign there will make any difference. Water won't run until we have the report.
And I agree. I agree, Rowley, but it's not only the residents, it's the campers and the passerbys that drive through there that know that there is a dumping station there that has been there for years that don't know why the water shut off. I'm not worried about the residents. The residents are well aware as to why the water shut off. And I'm not disputing why it was shut off. It's, it's true. We've had problems with the water, and nobody's disputing that the water, there wasn't problems with the water. It's just to let people know, sorry, the water shut off due to whatever. And that's all. Is there anybody have any problems with that? It's just a sign. Leo?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, well, it's not on the motion for asking for a sign. So
no, I'm asking. I'm asking. I'm sorry, Leo.
I know, but she just read the resolution.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Well, the resolution, the response to the resolution, we are discussing it now. So Madame Medes' resolution is being discussed. So that's the only action that we've had for that resolution. But I only ask for respect to letting people living in that area to let them know that the water shut off for some reason. Mr. Balbo?
I wasn't aware that we didn't notify or we didn't have any communication, so we'll speak to that. Procedurally, you do have a resolution on the floor though, so it should be voted on. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay. So is there anybody wish to vote on the resolution?
Well, what?
We have a mover and a seconder. Okay, I'm sorry.
I got a question.
Okay, Lise.
Okay, well, what are we supposed to vote on? Vote on the discussion? It did happen, so I mean,
happened, yes.
there's no voting on nothing because we discussed it, it's over.
There is a notice of motion
Yeah,
that was put on the floor and a resolution was tabled that was duly moved and seconded. So council needs to vote on it and dispense with it.
okay,
Okay.
so,
Thank you, Mr. Balbo. So we have the mover and seconder. And then who was it? Oh, yeah, yourself and Lise. Okay. Yeah. So all in favor of the motion, the notice of motion that was put forward by Madame Joanne Savage and Lise Sénécal? Well, I mean.
On the units.
No, it's not funny, Lise. Okay. All opposed, the motion is defeated. It doesn't matter. We did what the motion asked. Thank you very much, Madame Eres.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Chair. We proceed, notice of motion. There's a second notice of motion moved by Conseiller Denis Sénécal, who submitted the notice of motion. Would there be a seconder for the notice of motion?
I'll second it, Madame Eres.
Conseiller Yvon?
It is moved by Councillor Denise Sénécal and seconded by Councillor Yvon Zihang. Whereas at the meeting of June 22nd, 2021, Council agreed with 2 Integrity Commissioner recommendations of apology for violation of Councillor Fisher's violation of the Code of Conduct. And whereas neither apologies have been provided, therefore it is recommended that Councillor Fisher be suspended of pay for a period of 2 months, 1 month for each violation.
I'll pass it on to Conseiller Denis if he has any additional information pertaining to the notice of motion that was brought forward by Conseiller Denis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The notice of motion was brought forth because there is no action being done on this file. Also, I'd like to explain that I did do both motions because the Verner resident, I did put the motion for that resident also because they have no councillor in Verner. So that's why there's one motion for both. Otherwise, I would have put just mine and residents could have put theirs. So now it's not the issue. The council has agreed that we proceed with this as per the recommendation of the IC investigator, and I think we need to proceed. And it's sort of a non-compliance issue now. So that's where we're at, and we need to move on this file somehow. Mr. Fisher, or Councillor Fisher doesn't look like he's going to apologize. So the only other option we have is to follow the Municipal Act and go for a financial reprimand. That's all I have to say on that. It's pretty clear, but you can open up the floor, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional comments at this point? Conseiller Rowley, Conseiller Chris.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, the comment that was just made by Councillor Denis Sénécal that Mr. Fisher, or Councillor Fisher, doesn't want to apologize is false. He did ask that he will apologize to you, and you said no. So I don't see where you're getting that. Thank you.
Do you have a response to that comment or to the reference that
yes,
there was?
No, yes, Madam Mayor. I don't recall.
Conseiller Denis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't recall saying no for accepting an apology, and
You should go listen.
not a serious and public apology. That's not what was provided, if any. I don't recall hearing an apology, maybe a mumble, I don't know. But to be fair, if Mr. Council official wants to apologize publicly, I'll give him the floor right now. That is.
No, I don't, and I already offered, and Brody is correct, and
fine,
this
so we'll go
motion is
to
a
Okay,
lie. It's
okay.
facious.
Point of
I have the
order.
floor, no?
No, Conseil Chris, the floor is directed through the chair and not through another member of council. Okay, so the question was asked, was there a public apology provided to the member of council and to the actual constituent? Yes or no?
Do I have the floor now?
That's what I'm asking, Councillor
Not a yes
Chris.
or no. Do I have the floor? Do I have the floor?
You wish to speak on the subject matter? Please
Of
proceed.
course I do.
And that's the question that was asked by Conseil Denis.
Okay, so the motion is not true. It's a lie. So the very first thing I did is said I would be willing to apologize. It was not accepted. Okay, so the answer is no. And this is vexatious. It's a waste of time and whatever. And you vote on it. I'm voting on it. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm not going to be entertaining if we get into a debate, pertaining to finger pointing and making accusations back and forth. Let's focus on the motion. And when it comes to the actual motion, it was clearly identified to members of council that the individual, Conseil Dan, I've seen your hand. If I can just finish with my train of thought, and I will allow the provision for individuals that want to speak on the motion. And I've lost my train of thought. It seems like to be blocking my view. And I find that to be disruptive. And unfortunately, that's not how we are to do business. So at the end, council members were informed who duly can vote on the subject matter through questions that were raised with the IC. And the
Point
IC,
of order. Point of order.
What is your point of order, Councillor Chris?
My point of order is you cannot force somebody not to vote. That is my choice. And you say that all the time. Thank you.
Okay, well, your point of order is denied because I cannot find any violation of our rules of procedures. We were shared the information from the IC who could vote on the matter pertaining to a violation. I'm just going to conclude before calling this to a vote and avoid divisiveness. I'm just going to conclude. I hate the fact of being put in this situation. And I hate the fact, I find it personally difficult. I shouldn't say hate the fact. I find it difficult that we have to deal with this matter this evening through a notice of motion for non-compliance regarding an apology. True, and our CEO did provide us the advice that we cannot force someone to apologize. And that's clear. That is clear. And I don't find it funny when we get, the whole objective of our code of conduct is members of council are expected to act at a higher standard. We adopted our own laws, our own policies for code of conduct and our procedures. Let me finish, Conseil Chris.
As a point of order, because you raised it. So you just said it yourself that you cannot force somebody to apologize.
That's correct.
Also, the apology was ultra vast. So you also can't tell me to jump off a bridge or run into a road and then say, "Oh,
let's focus on the subject matter."
Not the way it works. And hold on, I have the floor. And this should be a request for reconsideration. Thank you.
The matter is not reconsideration. If we were dealing with the IC report, that would be reconsideration. If we were dealing with the matter of supporting the recommendation of the IC, would be reconsideration. The new matter in front of us is the non-compliance of what was the will of council who made the decision that there was an expectation that there'd be an apology. So the new matter is the non-compliance. There's a motion on the table, and you know what? If there's anything else to be said other than doing it in a fashion that is disrespectful, I will provide the floor, but I'm calling it to a vote right after. Conseiller Dan?
First of all, you use the word disrespectful when it's convenient to you. I've had my hand up, and I was going to just basically say, and it's not disrespectful to you or to anybody around the table. I was going to say the punishment does not fit what was done. I think the punishment is too hard, and I will not support this type of vexation. And secondly, if Mr. Senecal, who is the other complainant, Mr. Senecal, if you're aware of it? You didn't share that with us. You talked to the other person. So, you know, there's a lot of hidden agendas here, and I have a problem with that. And Madame Mayor, you use the word disrespectful to your advantage, and I'm not being disrespectful. I'm being very respectful. Thank you.
Well, we won't agree to on that term.
Madame Mayor, point of
We
order.
will not agree to that term, and as chair,
Madame Mayor, I appeal. A point of order. My point of order is that you should not be lecturing people around this table in a public format. And second,
Conseiller Dan, I did not provide you with the floor. Conseiller Dan, as chair, if you do not want to obey to the discussion process from the chair, I will just ask you to vacate the meeting. You can be expelled. Consider this your notice. And Conseiller Rowley, you were not provided the floor either. You know what? We are discussing a matter without making personalized accusations or personalized opinions. There's a motion in front of us, and I think, you know what, continuing this to have everyone to have their say is becoming not constructive. Focus on the motion, which is not a matter of reconsideration, it's a new matter, and I would call it to a vote. So I'd like to see a show of hand who is supporting the motion that has been brought forward by Conseiller Denis.
I would like a recorded vote, please.
Okay, thank you. So I'll proceed to ask the clerk to call a recorded vote.
Councillor Duhaime?
Yes.
Councillor Fisher?
No.
Councillor Larrabee?
No, double standard.
I'm sorry?
No, it's no.
Sorry. Councillor Mallet?
No.
Councillor Revita?
Respectively, no.
Councillor Denis Senecal?
Well, I'd just like to point out that Councillor Fisher has no right to vote, but I'll vote yes.
Councillor Lee Senecal?
Yes, and I agree with only one thing that's going on right now. It's not the behavior, is that Councillor Fisher is making the choice to vote. Hey, that's his choice. Only him can make that decision, even if he was advised not to. So.
Thank you, Lise.
No, well, don't thank me because I don't agree with that. But I mean, the only person that can choose to vote is yourself, and we'll leave it.
Point of order. Point of order. I thought we were voting. So if it's one side of council, they can talk all they want.
Conseiller Rowley, you know what, Conseiller Rowley, the point of order, you know what, was just a mechanism to prohibit Conseiller Lise from continuing her train of thought. You provided your comment when you voted. Out of respect to another colleague, you should permit the other colleague to do so. So your point of order is denied.
And I
double standard again.
Not
well,
double
I did not
standard.
speak double
Conseil.
standard. Okay, finish.
Okay. Get back to the vote. Get to the vote.
Pierre Savage?
I say yes, and we were provided the interpretation from the IC specifically identifying.
All of order, Madame Mayor. This is not the time. You had your chance to discuss this, and we're voting. a call of order. We are voting, Madam Mayor.
We are voting, and I said yes. And Conseiller Dan, if you continue to disrupt someone while they're speaking, I will ask you to recuse yourself from the meeting. And I was also going to ask our CEO a specific question on the subject matter. We were notified, all informed from the Integrity Commissioner, that when we get an individual that violates the code of conduct, was that individual allowed to vote on the violation? And the response provided by the IC, with whom we pay, was no.
Right. You want my opinion?
Well, would that be legit? And that's what I am
Would you
asking the
my
question.
answer? It is not in the terms of the conflict of interest, or in the terms of the IC's recommendations on sanctions against one or more individuals. With those individuals have a right to comment and argue, but they don't have a right to vote, and that's from the IC perspective. But then it comes into the purview of the conflict of interest perspective. There's nothing that precludes them from voting, except that you're clearly been informed that perhaps he is knowingly violating the conflict of interest guidelines from a pecuniary interest. Section 12.2 of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act has stipulates as to what can happen at that point. So at that point, and let me preface here that he needs to have been found guilty of a conflict of interest. So you need to follow the process after the vote. And then after the vote, should he have been found guilty, he or she, let's be in general here, then under section 12.2, you can bring forward to void that decision. And the section also says that it does not invalidate the vote. So unfortunately, this may not suit the political arguments at the table, but a member can vote, but the member will wear the consequences if he or she knowingly votes against their interest. Like any conflict of interest, the duty is on theirs. So yes, when you were asking the IC whether that person should or vote, and he says no, he's speaking on behalf of the fact that there may be a conflict. And certainly his ruling is like he would to advise any of our council. He would say, you're in conflict, you don't vote. But he's not. You'd have to ask the question, is your decision, and is this binding, and do I have authorities, which is a legal term to say, is there any statute in law that says I can preclude him to a vote? And I can tell you, Madam Mayor, I've researched this. No. So
Okay.
he can vote, and then you can pursue him later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the information. I will still proceed to vote based on what we were provided by the IC, and based on the fact that there doesn't seem to even be the will to provide an apology and to reconsider and accepting the behavior and looking forward and trying to even improve the behavior. But anyway, that's my say. My vote is yes to be recorded.
That's a double-edged axe.
Conseiller Rowley, you know
Yes.
what? The next comment that is provided to either attempt to be sarcastic in any way towards anyone, you will ask to be recused. I have consider this your final warning. Thank you.
Oh, God.
Okay, Conseiller Rowley, excuse yourself, recuse yourself from this meeting. Good night.
Good night.
What is the outcome of the?
If Rolly goes, I go. Bye.
Completed.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't understand because of all the disruption that is occurring at this point.
The motion is completed.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. That's appreciated. So now we move on.
Excuse me, some people have said they're leaving, but they're still there. Councillor Christopher, you got the respect that if you're leaving the meeting, you have to leave the Zoom meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Elise, because I do not see from my end who is part of the meeting. I only see the screen, but I cannot see who is still attending the meeting, but I cannot view whether or not, if they're still there or not. Unfortunately, it's not seen from this screen in the boardroom.
I can tell you right now, I think Councillor Rowley, Councillor Fisher, and Councillor Leo is gone from the meeting.
And
So we still have a quorum to operate.
no, I am leaving to, I
Okay.
can't,
Okay, thank you.
mismanagement of a meeting. Thank you, buddy.
Councillor Dan,
Bye.
you might as well leave the meeting with those remarks. So at this point, we are 4 members of council remaining. I can't see if the other councillors are still on.
They all gone.
Okay, thank you. And that means we don't have quorum to be able to proceed with any further
I have a
business.
question before you leave, because I mean.
Okay, just a second, Councillor Elise. I see that Councillor Denis has his hand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to ensure that as per the procedure, they need to apologize before coming back to the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Elise?
Well, that's about what I was saying, because the only person when the people leave the meeting without being excused is the responsible the chair to excuse somebody or to ask them to leave. And the only person that was asked to leave was Councillor Rowley. So the 3 other one to be able to have a meeting will have to apologize, and we'll take right where we are at. I think that's what our procedure is saying. So now we don't have a quorum, Madam Mayor, so.
We'll follow due process pertaining to rules of procedures to be able to reconvene for another meeting, and our CEO is on, and I will discuss the matter with the CEO or the clerk tomorrow to verify the rules of procedures. Jay, I don't know what the facial expression means. Sorry.
Just letting off, there's so much,
I think, point of order, Madam Mayor. The meeting cannot go on because we're not a quorum, so I don't want to get into trouble. So that a resolution should believe that the meeting is concluded. That's it. Because I'm going to leave myself.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Elise, and I'm going to pass it on to the clerk. I see that Melanie has her hand up.
So no response? Okay, good. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, the procedural bylaw states that if at any time during the meeting there is no quorum, the meeting shall automatically be deemed to stand recessed until there is a quorum again in attendance, and should the lack of quorum continue for 30 minutes, then the meeting shall automatically be adjourned until the next regular meeting or until a special meeting be called to deal with the matters still to be dealt with.
Good night.
Okay, thank you. I do know that the rules of procedures also makes reference when someone does leave without permission of the chair and so on. So that is going to be looked at a little bit more closer as well before we proceed recess to the next meeting. So based on that, we don't even have the capability right now of adopting any resolution to be able to adjourn the meeting as we normally do. So
we have to stay for the 30 minutes.
We have to stay for the 30 minutes? Okay, so what we'll do is, it's 9 o'clock right now. So we have to stay, the members that have not left without authorization from this meeting, 30 minutes to see whether or not if one will re-attend to define if we have quorum or not. See, is that right?
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
OK. Donc, on va attendre le 30 minutes. C'est réellement dommage de la situation entière. So do we stay live or do we pause?
I will, the procedural bylaw doesn't speak to what we do with regard to the live streaming. I'll continue to record the meeting because that is in the procedural bylaw.
I have a question here. I don't think we should be discussing for 30 minutes. I think it should be all of us put ourselves on mute because there should be no conversation. If you want to discuss procedure tomorrow, I think you should do that among yourself, who is responsible to deal with that. So there should be no conversation whatsoever right now, and wait the 30 minutes, Madam Mayor. Because
Yeah, that's correct, Conseil Elise,
okay,
but
well, that's it. No more talking. That's it.
Conseil Elise, it's
Well,
just
I
the
mean,
the live stream continues, but then, yeah, we can mute each other.
Okay, I'll just leave the meeting, Madam Mayor, but I'll stick around.
Okay, thank you. And we'll just mute and the live stream continues.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Melanie. I'm looking at my watch and the time is 9:28. So we still have 2 more minutes to wait. Is there a non-compliance issue pertaining to rules if the mayor provides a comment pertaining to the outcome of this evening? I can't hear, sorry.
Well, since we're not really in a meeting.
Nope. Nope, Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, but I don't think you should.
It's okay, it's okay. I just asked the question. I do not want to make the situation more muddy. I just wanted clarification. So that's fine.
What is that noise?
Hey, Moy.
It's paper shuffling.
I'm not talking.
No, it's because Yvon, he was
Wait,
shuffling paper in his
Wait,
envelope.
I knew it was not you, Mel, you were not moving.
Holding my paper.
No, I guess because Yvon was looking at his clock and putting paper in his envelope so that I made reference to paper shuffling. Well, we have, I believe it's 9:30 or near 9:30, so we,
9:30. So we stand adjourned until the next regular meeting or until a special meeting is called.
okay, thank you. Good
Thank you,
evening.
Mel.
Mel.